Hi everyone. Now a lot of people have been asking me, what do you do with these things? So, interspersed with making things, we've got to think what we're going to finish them with, or how. So I was just going to talk to you a little bit about framing for today, and how we used to do it in days gone by, and how it seems to have changed over time with new products coming out. So in the old days, what we would have done is, can you see how it's a little bit rippled there? I could probably iron that out again, or pull, but I mean, you might have wanted to perhaps iron it onto some stiffener, and make sure you pulled those out at the same time. Like when you'd gotten it ironed out flat, put it on some stiffener, iron that on, and then that's going to stay nice. Then either way, what you could do then is, on your backing board, you would put you could use some double-sided tape or something, and you could hold it down. But look, what we did in the old days, just out of interest's sake, was we used to lace. So in the old days, we would lace, and we would use a strong cotton, like this is a crochet cotton. I'm pulling on it and it won't break. If I was using something a little bit more breakable, I'd have been using 2 or 3 strands of it. Anyway, just to show you what they used to do, I'll need something with a large enough eye. So you'd start off with a really long piece, and you would attach it here. Just imagine I've tidied up the edges here. If you were really worried about it coming undone, you could overlock or zigzag, but it's not going to be seen. See, sometimes you might not want a surround around it. You might want to just have the frame. If that was the case, you would maybe imagine this is a little bit bigger, but it's the same sort of thing. Anyway, what you do is, you used to go like that and lace it behind, and then you would go in like that. Let me just pick that up so you can see. You see what I mean? I'm just using whatever I've got here because it's I'm not very prepared, but it's the basic principle of the thing. Right, then you'd go back underneath and you'd go in there, and you go back up again. Now you don't have to imagine your shoelaces. It's very similar. That's why I'm saying it's lacing, like lacing up your shoes. But what we're doing is, and that's why I've got a nice big piece, is I'm going underneath all the time, and I'm just taking that edge, if you can see that. So what I would do then is, looking how I started off, so I would pull tension, see what I mean? And then that would be so they would lace it one way, pull in the tension, and then they would go this way and back again, and that would pull it out, stretch it out so that any wrinkles in it weren't there anymore. And that was just a quick look to show you what it used to be. But then we got things like double-sided tape and stuff like that. Now, another thing about when you do get around to framing things, I mean, look at this, I've just got a tatty mess. But like, here's a frame, 4 by 4 inches is the insert. Sometimes it's really surprising you look at something like this and you think, oh, that's a bit of a mess. But then you isolate something and suddenly you've got a picture. And then, you know, I might decide, oh, I like that. I like it right over there. You know, I take out the bits that I don't want. And that's really nice. So what I could do is say, okay, that's you. That's how I like you. And I could cut it back. Maybe just cut this bit off. Neaten things up a little bit. Sometimes you might want to put it on another nice piece of fabric and leave those bits that were hanging off to continue to hang off and down into the other fabric, you know, and extend out. We've done that before. But here we go. Here's a little picture. Now it doesn't need much in the way of stretching out, but I would think that with this, well, you have two things. You have the frame, the mat board, the framing board. It's made of cardboard. And then you have the backing board. I don't seem to have any at the moment that I can show you, but it has to be quite thick, I think. You know, this could do it a pinch, but it's not really that thick. I buy a backing board that's 700 GSM, and it's like twice that thickness. And it's nice and solid. It won't easily cup. Can you see how that's cupping? Anyway, I just purchased some more of that, and I don't have it to show you, but take my word for it. So you would have the board and the mat board the same size. That's the important thing. And you would then mark it. And you would cut it. And with that, you're probably better off with a metal ruler and a little scalpel. Trim it up. Now for a start, let's have a little look. You know, these things don't look like much, like I say, but you know, you get this here and you think, oh yeah, you're much better in a little frame like that. Or see, these are felt ones that I've done, needle felting. See, quite nice. Move it over a little bit. It's all about getting it balanced, you see. Do I want it like that? A little bit moved over. There. Now if you had a nice wooden frame or something around that, that would look really pretty. There's something else that we've done in the past. Now some things are thicker than others. Let me tell you what I would do there. If I have a thicker piece like this, or this is quite thick, then they're not going to sandwich up nicely, are they? So you can either cut this back so that it's only just larger than this cut out, and you might if you've got an overlocker, you might do that to stay there like that. But what I'm thinking that I should show you is, for a start, let's look at some different tapes. Now this is one that you use in scrapbooking a lot. Always look for things, if you can, that are acid free. And it's just a double-sided. Now the way that one works is you pop it on like that, and so it's stuck to that. And then when you're ready, you take that bit off, and then you've got the sticky bit ready to stick something to. What have we got? And so that sticks it enough for your frame, and it does it flat. Now let's use the same example, but I'll show you this one. This one is a padded one. It's also double-sided. And what you do with this one, we'll use the same spot. But what it does, and it's the same, we put it down, we take the top off, and there we go, we got the double-sided bit. But what happens this time is when you put this on, see, it's not completely up against the board. I don't know if you can see that. It's left a gap. So that's a good thing. So if you had something like this, something that needed that gap filled at the same time as you're sticking that frame to the backing board, you could use that double-sided tape. A nice thick spongy one. You could also use some ordinary card, and you could use the double-sided flat tape, and when you do that, if you did it on this side and on that side, you know, you could do that, and that's also adding a nice spacer. So those are just things to think about, how deep it is, where you might want it. This one here's a cloth tape. This one's used in bookbinding. It's acid free, it's a good strong one. So you know, if you knew that that was the right size, that thing there, you could just go like that. I got you where you knew where you wanted it, and you could just go like that, and you could pull this down, get a bit of stretch on it, and you could do it the other side as well. Now I know I'm being messy and quick. I should have been more prepared and done this. We will do this properly one day. You probably don't even need to do those side bits. Anyway, pretend I've been tidy. And that's actually done and ready. You know, you could pop that in a frame now. These don't need to be attached. You can put your spacer in if it's needed. But yeah, that's pretty good. But there's one more thing I would like to show you, and I'm going to have a go at it now. Right, well, it's all been leading up to this. This is a new product that I wanted to try. And what it is, I'll cut it first. I want to cut it the same size as that. So just let me do that first. There's my pencil. I'm going to go like that. Note how it's got those lovely squares there in a grid-like pattern. That helps you to stay nice and straight. Right, let's have a look at it. This is a foam core board. You use that a lot in proper framing. when you're wanting to do, well, I do pastel paintings, and you use this as a nice acid-free, stiff, lightweight backing. That's what it normally looks like. It's paper with foam in the center. But what it does have that isn't normal, which is I've just discovered, is it has a sticky underneath, like a contact paper with that sticky there. Quite like the idea of that. So I thought I'd have a little look at that, because, you know, we start with lacing. Then we invented the tapes and things that could be used. I just basically wanted to mark lightly where the square is, where the cutout is that matches this. So I'm just going to go like that. Like that. Like that. Where's the last one? There, I think. And I was thinking, I'm not sure how sticky this stuff is, and to be safe, I thought the easiest thing for me to do would be to simply, I'm going to cut just through the paper there. I hope. Wouldn't matter if it goes in a little bit anyway, I wouldn't think. Did I do that side? Don't know. Now, what happens then is, can we pick that off? Yes, we can. Okay, so here, I'm just going to take that bit off. Just for a start. Because I want to see, I don't want to waste it, and I just want to see the stickiness and what I can do. And a lot of that could be cut back. Now, for the purposes of this, I'm just going to do that. Let's just see how sticky it is. And I can still pull it back. That I should be able to, you know, stretch it a little bit. That's good. So it's not totally stuck down. That's interesting. Okay. So let's try it. If I wanted to then take that off, right out to the edges there, but I've left enough sticky around it that I should be able to then join those up. And then I would be ready, I think, to shove it in a frame. So we've got that nice foam core board and this right up to the edges there. Just ready now for us to pop in the frame. So that's my idea. I think I would be inclined to do that. I'm thinking I'm going to experiment a lot more with this interesting stuff. There always a couple more and I can just have a little look-see. If you were doing something larger, that would be interesting. You know, maybe I'd use the iron-on, like I said, to keep it stiff and flat. You know, the more surface area there is, the more chance it could ripple up. Something small like that, that's not really going to do much. I think that is really quite lovely. And I think it just makes such a difference when you finally do get a frame around something, how good it looks. So you can see these mat board frames are available on the internet or framing shops. Let's get these two down. Maybe that's a set. Perhaps you could have a good frame around both of those. Right, so I hope I've given you some good ideas about how you might get started to frame your own little pieces of textile art that you make. It really doesn't take much, and it makes such an astounding difference when you put a frame around it. Anyway, it was a little bit impromptu and rough and ready, but it's been interesting. And I hope you've gained something from it too. My name's Tracey. Art Fibre Stitch is my business. If you have liked this video, do press like and subscribe to my channel, and all of my links are below. Thank you.